What's up, everyone? It's your girl Jay, and welcome to Daebak, a show where we talk about the hottest topics in K-pop and play the hottest songs out right now. So last week I did not have an episode, but that means we have more things to cover today than ever, including the official announcement that Cara has disbanded, my thoughts on the new Mnet show Produce 101, an event that has the drama Cheese in the Trap in Hot Water, and much more. But before we get into all that, let's start off with the first song of the day, Freakin' Shoes by Mamamoo. And we are back. If you're just tuning in, that was just Freakin' Shoes by Mamamoo. So it is now official. DSP Entertainment has announced that after 9 years, Cara will be parting ways as members Gyuri, Hara, and Sunyeon have officially left the company and the group. So now this official announcement comes after weeks and weeks of rumors that they would be leaving and that they were working on signing different deals with different entertainment companies. In fact, shortly after this news was released, it was revealed that Hara actually signed with Key East Entertainment, which is more known for their actors, leaving some people to wonder whether she's going to start the acting route now. But basically, the whole big thing with this whole situation was the fact that now that Cara is essentially over, what are they going to do with Youngji? So for those of you who don't know, Youngji is a member that joined in 2014 after winning the Baby Cara contest, which was a reality show or survival show in which DSP trainees duked it out, and whoever won got to be the new member of Cara following the departure of Nicole and Ji-young. So Youngji wins, is put in this group, and now after about 1-ish to 1.5-ish years of promotion, this group is now over. So a lot of people felt that it was very unfair to Youngji for them to leave, but at the same time, in my opinion, I feel like DSP kind of messed things up by putting in Youngji in the first place. I could see they were trying to hold the group together, and it's pretty hard to hold them together with only 3 members. However, I feel like the Cara members probably sensed that they're nearing the end of their careers, because before this whole Baby Cara thing actually happened, it was kind of revealed that they were actually against the idea. Now this is before, of course, Youngji won, and when Youngji did win, they were very accepting of her, but Cara didn't actually want this new member addition. I feel like it was part of the reason was because they knew that this could only last for a couple more years, and so they're putting somebody's potential career in jeopardy if they were to join. So overall, I do feel bad for Youngji, but I also feel like the members, they paid their dues after being in Cara for 9 years. So if they decide that there's nothing there for them anymore, then that's totally fine. And I actually have to kind of call out a lot of people who are saying it was unfair of them to leave, and they should have stuck it out for Youngji's sake, because where are you people when their albums and their singles were coming out? Because part of the reason why it was so evident that Cara was, on the verge of breaking up or not being together anymore was the fact that their singles and their music and their albums were just on a steep decline in terms of sales and popularity. So it's like people wanted them to stay in this dying group for the sake of Youngji's career. Because no offense, but and this was a lot to put on Youngji's shoulders, because her whole thing being in the group essentially was, you're put in this group to breathe new life into it, so you're gonna breathe new popularity. But what actually ended up happening is that while Youngji got popular herself and made a name for herself, she didn't really do anything for Cara's overall popularity. I mean, their most recent album In Love and their most recent song Cupid, that was the worst sales they ever had. And I'm not saying that Youngji didn't do her job and blah blah blah, because that was a lot to put on her, but I'm just saying, why should the 3 other members of Cara have to stick around in a dying group just for the sake of somebody else's career? And following up that, I feel like even though this whole end is very unfortunate how it wrapped up, I do think Youngji did get a lot out of it. Youngji, she got to promote with one of the most popular groups in Korea, I guess, and very well-known groups in Korea. I'll say very well-known groups in Korea. So just being a new member of Cara, she got so much exposure. Cara, they already did the whole debut in Japan thing and made a name there, so she got exposure with Japanese TV. She got to go on things that rookies could only fathom of going on because she had the fact that she was a Cara member, and Cara as a whole have already paid her dues. So she got, roommate and a lot of things that put her name out there, more so than being the new member of the new DSP rookie girl group would have ever. So now, even though she doesn't have a group, she has name value in a sense, where if they decided to put her in another group or build a new group around her, since she was only a member of Cara for about 1.5 years, it could work out. I feel like she really is in a place to have a new group built around her. So though I feel unfortunate that this happened, I think she can really, if DSP plays their cards right, she can really, this isn't the end for her, basically. And another thing I wanted to point out is the fact that people noticed that in the official announcement of the 3 members leaving, DSP never specifically said that Cara was disbanding. So a lot of people think it might be a situation where there's a chance that they might all get back together in the future, but for now they're going to do their separate activities under separate agencies. So that's a cool idea, but in my opinion, I don't think that's going to probably happen, at least not anytime soon. Now, I do think the girls are still friendly with each other, because the problem was never the actual members in Cara, it was the company DSP. But it just seems like they're ready to open a new chapter of their life or their careers. I definitely can see Hara still working in the industry. Not so much Gyuri and Sunyeon. I feel like they're probably just gonna lay low and chill for a while. If they find a project or something that suits their fancy, they might take it. But I feel like they really give me this vibe that they're gonna really lay low. So good luck to the 3 members who officially left DSP. I hope you guys have really successful careers, and good luck to Youngji. I know she'll be able to pick herself back up and make a good career for herself, and maybe have one to rival or to kind of follow the success or live up to the success of Cara. So that is it for that topic. Let's move back into the music with Cupid by Cara. And we are back. For those of you just tuning in, we just played Cupid by Cara and Whalian 52 by BTS. So, Korean English news site, I guess you would say, Koreaboo is currently under fire for not crediting properly. So, in the past couple years, translation sites have become really big among the K-pop fandom. So for those of you who don't know, translation sites are basically these sites. They're usually just blog spots where admins and the owners of the sites go to different Korean news sites like Nate and Naver and translate trending articles into English. So English-speaking K-pop fans can kind of understand how K-netizens are feeling and receiving their faves, and just things that are happening, over in Korea and what public sentiment is. There's a couple big ones, Netizen Buzz being one of the biggest and probably the first, I'm pretty sure it was the first one to come about, but since then many have sprung up, including sites like Coolgem, Pannchoa, and K-Pop K-Fan. So basically a couple weeks ago, Pannchoa put together an article basically calling out the news site Koreaboo for essentially just lifting their translations and their articles, not crediting them and posting it to their own site as their own information. Now, keep in mind that all this stuff is coming from, sites. So these news sites and these articles that are being posted to Pannchoa, they're actually translations of articles from Korean site Pan. So they are translating that, but they make sure to credit where they initially got their stuff. So the problem here is that Pannchoa noticed that Koreaboo was taking their article, their translation articles, kind of rephrasing some of the translations and then reposting it to their own site as their own translations, claiming that they translate their articles straight from Pan. So now just looking at the article that Pannchoa posted kind of exposing Koreaboo. They have like some really legit receipts, and so I'm just gonna talk about a couple of the receipts and some of the reasons why they knew and found out that Koreaboo was actually just lifting their translations and calling it their own. So one article that Pannchoa translated called "Idols Wearing Insoles," which are basically just things in your shoes that make you look taller. Pannchoa actually made a mistake in which they had like a translation error, so what they translated wasn't actually correct. So basically, one of the people who were known to wear insoles was Juniel from Icon. So for those of you who don't know Icon, Juniel is actually the oldest member in Icon. In that article, there was a comment that Pannchoa translated about Juniel, in which a commenter said, when he's next to his hyungs, he has a cute charm. So like I just said, Juniel is the oldest member in Icon, so he doesn't have any hyungs in Icon. This was a mistake on Pannchoa's part. The actually initial comment would actually translate into, next to the tall members, he has cute charms. So if you actually were translating this straight from Pan, you would know this and you would have translated it as such. So Koreaboo, when they posted the article, they actually ended up translating it as, when he's next to his hyungs, he's really cute and charming. They made the exact same mistake that Pannchoa made. What are the odds of that unless you were lifting the translation from Pannchoa? I actually think it's funny because sometimes in an attempt to kind of not make it seem like they're straight up lifting translations from Pannchoa, they'll actually paraphrase or rephrase certain comment translations, but that actually leads to the comment translations being incorrect, which is one of the major points as to why Pannchoa was able to pick up on, these article liftings and things like that. So I think that that's very unprofessional on Koreaboo's part. I feel like there's nothing wrong, and even Pannchoa now, they're not even asking for much. They're just asking to go back and credit all the times they've lifted, all the articles that they've lifted translations from Pannchoa, and they actually are very gracious because they actually noticed that it's not just Pannchoa that they're lifting from, it's other translation sites. So in the original statement, they actually asked if they would credit the other sites that they lift from, and they just did it that they work hard, and sometimes when you don't have the context of the article and what the user's talking about, you have to kind of search for it. So it's not just like translating things. There's a lot of stuff that go into producing these articles on Pannchoa. So they're simply just asking for credit, but even from today, as of today, they still haven't gotten a proper response. They've sent them the statement, they've tweeted at them, and they still have no response from Koreaboo. So I just think that it's very unprofessional, and they're really not even asking for much. They're not asking for you to take down the articles. They're not suing you or anything. They're just asking for a simple credit because, Koreaboo gets a lot of buzz and a lot of, hits. So it'd be nice if the people who actually did the translating and took the time out to do that would get a little credit, or maybe, a link back to Pannchoa, the Pannchoa site. So, if they want to keep their reputation clean, I would just, I just suggest they have more honest approaches to reporting news and just being honest about where they get their news. So let's get back into the music with Dream by Baekhyun and Suzy. And we are back. For those of you just tuning in, that was just Dream by Baekhyun and Suzy, Playground by GOT7, and To You by Lovelyz. So I don't know if you guys have been watching, but the new drama Cheese in the Trap, based off the webtoon of the same name, seems to be a pretty big hit. I've been watching it myself and I really love it, but recently it's come under fire due to an event planned around it. So basically, reps of the drama announced that they'd be holding an event where Cheese in the Trap fans will get a chance to meet all of the drama's most hated characters in real life and come and pick fights with them and swear at them, at their faces. So the person who swears the best would then be given an autograph from the webtoon artist. On the other hand, they were actually going to do another event where the lead actor Park Hae-jin would be fulfilling a viewer's wish. So putting that aside, you can see why this event is getting a lot of hate towards it, because basically it's a situation where these actors actors who just signed up to play a role are now being thrown into this situation where they're going to have to be sweared at and cursed at, even if it is just their character, not the actors themselves, for this weird event that the reps decided to put together. Now, I think by now the whole thing has kind of been, closed after all the controversy surrounding it, and maybe they reevaluated the fact that this is that's a really weird event, but there's been no official word, so I'm gonna assume maybe they're still going on with it, and if that's the case, please don't. This is really weird, and it's actually funny because I feel like, and it's not just when it comes to K-dramas, but I feel like people tend to have that tendency where they kind of project their feelings towards certain actors, certain actors because of the roles they played. For example, that's actually how a lot of actresses kind of get stuck into playing like the second leads, because if you play enough second leads, people just see you as a second lead, and it's kind of hard to transition from being, that second lead character to like main character, and people will be like, it doesn't feel right, it's kind of weird, but that's, it's not because anything to do with you, it's just that they're so used to seeing you in a certain way. Or for example, female characters who always play the villain, they'll be like, if they try to play a role where they're not the villain, people will be like, this is kind of weird. This whole situation kind of reminds me, if you guys have ever seen the Lizzie McGuire movie, in it there is a character who basically tricks the main character Lizzie into thinking he's a good guy, but he's actually bad. And so, that movie and that show was kind of targeted towards children. But I remember the actor who played the guy, him having an interview and talking about how like random fans would come up to him and be like, I don't like you, and he's like, why? And then they'd be like, because you hurt Lizzie. So people would project their feelings of how they felt towards the character on this innocent actor. So this event is like that to the umpteenth power. Now, I get it. I mean, everyone's always looking for new and innovative ways to promote their shows and their dramas or whatever products they're selling, but I can't see, I just really can't see like the actors being 100% on board with this and not in a way being forced to do this or forced in this situation. I mean, the actors, I'm not too familiar with the actors who play the non-leads, but I assume that they're not that big of actors. Like, they're definitely not like Park Hae-jin level to be saying, I don't want to do this. So I feel like there was some kind of strong arming into the situation in the first place, and that's a little bit of, taking advantage of the fact that the actors are willing to do anything, to keep their roles and to get these roles and to not cause any problems. But it's just like a really weird sentiment, because even if it's joking, hearing curse words thrown at you, it's kind of, it could never make you feel good. So I'm hoping that, the people who originally planned this and the reps who are promoting this, anyone involved kind of sees this sentiment online and decides to cancel the project if they already haven't. And rather, why don't they just do something like Park Hae-jin is doing, just grant wishes from the viewer? Like, even if that's not in line with their characters per se, I feel like that would be a much more positive and just overall better event than, having a day where everyone's getting cursed at. That is such a weird sentiment. The person who swears at these characters the best gets an autograph? Is that what we're doing this for? I don't know. And the thing is, I want to think that people wouldn't actually come to the event because it's just an uncomfortable situation all together, but I'm pretty sure people would show up if they got to just curse out people. Because if I'm being honest, watching the drama, some of those characters are mad annoying, but I could never just take it out on the actor, because there's a difference between fiction and reality. So let's get into the next song. Here's Pricked by Winner. And we are back. For those of you just tuning in, those songs that I just played were Pricked by Winner, What I Want to You by Red Velvet, and Your Face by Louis from Geeks featuring Lee Hyun-woo. So it's official that Juniel has departed from FNC Entertainment and is now a free agent. Now, while it seems that the departure, the split of Juniel and FNC, they left on pretty good terms, it seems that way, I can't help but feel kind of bad for her. So for those of you who don't know about Juniel, she was a solo artist who debuted in 2011 under FNC, and from the get-go, she kind of had big shoes to fill because, and I guess this was the doing of FNC, they kind of marketed her as the second IU. She was this young, you know, she was actually the same age as IU, but she's this young girl. She makes very, you know, chill music. She has her guitar, and she, you know, gets that kind of vibe. But I feel like by marketing her as the second IU, it did bring her some hate because, you know, a lot of people were saying, you know, stop trying to ride IU's coattails. And I think it's actually funny that FNC, the same company who was accused of trying to take advantage of Susie's image by marketing Seolhyun as the next Susie, started out marketing Juniel as the next IU. But yeah, so she had, you know, some response with Illa, but after then, like, her singles just didn't really live up to the same, you know, hype and weren't as successful, leading to her now leaving FNC. Now, the reason why I feel bad for Juniel, and the reason why I feel like maybe she felt pretty jaded, is the fact that here you have FNC, you know, contracting all these comedians like Yoo Jae-suk and Donnie from Weekly Idol and all these big names, and then they're also, you know, pushing AOA into like mad stardom, and Seolhyun, she's like a top celebrity now, and it's like they're doing all this claiming, you know, they're basically part of the big three now, but they can't do anything to make Juniel pop like she did when she first came out. So I just feel like maybe, I mean, I'm not saying these are her feelings exactly, but if I were her, I'd feel kind of jaded because here's FNC claiming to be this awesome, great, like, dominating company, but they can't even do anything for me in the sense of, you know, I'm still sitting here with, you know, lukewarm responses to my songs, and, you know, I'm not really getting any bigger. So I can kind of see where she left, because it kind of seems like she was gonna get FT Island, and by that I mean that, like, when CM Blue came out after FT Island made their debut, and, you know, CM Blue were basically like an instant hit. I think they are on record for having one of the most, like, fastest number ones after debuting. I think it took them like less than a month or something to win number one after their official debut. So it seemed like they focused a lot on CM Blue, and it kind of, you know, Hongyi, I mean, I don't know if it was jokingly or seriously, but, you know, members have expressed how, you know, essentially FT Island was thrown to the wayside when, you know, Younghwa and CM Blue hit it big. So although, like, Juniel and AOA aren't in direct comparison in terms of, you know, because, you know, FT Island and CM Blue are, like, similar, like, in the sense that they're both boy bands, like, actual bands. So it's like, once you have one, do you really need the other? Juniel and AOA kind of give us a different vibe, but I feel like when Juniel was out, it was more of a desperate attempt. Like, you know, they already had CM Blue, but at the same time, you kind of have to keep your momentum going. So they're probably really desperate to make Juniel pop because, you know, they were just banking on CM Blue and, you know, somewhat FT Island. But then when AOA hit it big, it wasn't so much of a priority to make sure Juniel hit it big as well, because here you have AOA, they're an idol group, they're they're a bunch of very pretty girls. Not to say that Juniel is not pretty, but, you know, they're like these top visual girls, you know, they have a lot of fans, they're very flashy, they have sex appeal and things like that. And then you have Seolhyun, who is, you know, an it girl and, you know, slaying the game. So think about how much money and profit they can make off of AOA alone. Does it really, I guess in their eyes, did it really make sense to spend that much on Juniel, who at most could maybe rival IU, but you know, who, like, what's the chances of there being a second IU? So it just seemed like, you know, she just became less and less of a priority as they started to make advances to grow their company with AOA and with all the comedians that they were able to sign. So I feel like for her, one of the reasons why she probably left is that she probably saw that there was no space for her in the big grand scheme of FNC and where they're going. So she was never going to be a priority. So it's better that she leave and sign with a company where she could be the priority, or at least they'll put more strides to making sure that she's big and things like that, or just let her release the music she wants and things like that. So good luck to Juniel, and I feel like even though FNC is slowly becoming this big company, I feel like she was smart enough to know that just because your company has a lot of money doesn't mean they know how to treat you and they know how to promote you. So hopefully she does sign with a company that's more compatible for her and she can find success in the future. So moving on to our next song of the day, here's Playboy by EXO. Play, play, play. And we are back. For those of you who are just tuning in, I just played Playboy by EXO, Zero Gravity by Ulti, and Do It, Do It, Do It, Do It for Fun by Sunny. So for our last story today, I actually want to, I don't know if this is an apology, but I want to kind of, take back some of the criticisms I had towards the new Mnet show Produce 101. So I actually talked about this new show on an episode before, and I kind of criticized it because for those of you who don't know, the show basically took 101 trainees from different entertainment companies, and they're going to basically duke it out and compete to be put in this group that will then promote for a year under Mnet, and so they'll get a lot of exposure that way. So I kind of criticized it because I thought it was kind of extreme for these trainees to go through trying to distinguish yourself out of 100 girls, and the fact that it's gonna, no matter how you chop it's gonna be more helpful, and it's gonna always lean towards and expose more of the girls that are considered prettier and the girls from the bigger agencies. And not to mention, I feel like putting your trainees in this show is kind of lazy on the agency's part, because it really should be up to the agency to promote these girls by debuting them, but now they're placing the burden on the girls and then them distinguishing themselves out of all the trainees in this program, and then eventually Mnet if they do get chosen. But now that more information has been coming out about it and episodes have been airing, I kind of see it as like a second chance. There's actually a lot of girls in this program that we've actually seen before, and kind of they fell by the wayside and we never heard of them again. So I want to talk about some of the trainees that are participating that kind of have like these kind of sad stories that I kind of think it's awesome that they're getting a second chance and an attempt or a chance to kind of have another shot at fame. So one of the biggest stories to come out, or one of the girls with the, I guess you should say, biggest reputation on this show is Chanmi. So Chanmi, she kind of has a really sad story. So basically, she joined SM Entertainment in 2000, and she was actually part of one of the lineups for SNSD. So before SNSD was cut down to 9 girls, I feel like this has to do with the fact that they were supposed to be the sister group of Super Junior, but they're actually like 13, and then they cut down to 12, and eventually cut down to 9. So she was actually in the 12 girl lineup, but then when they cut it down to 9, she didn't make the cut. And so apparently she even stayed in SM for FX's debut, but she didn't make it into that group either. So she left and she joined Tiara's company, in which she, I think it's CCM. She joined CCM and she debuted in a group called Coed, who that was one of the first like boy-girl idol groups. Like, it was an idol group with boys and girls, but then one of the male members got into this huge scandal, which essentially led to the disbandment of the group. And so she was then put in a group called Five Dolls, but they never really hit it big. It ended up basically disbanding. So now she's still a trainee. Like, think about that. She's been trying to do this for 16 years. She's currently 25. And so you can just tell by her performances that she's been at this for a long time. She's very talented, very professional. And my only worry with her is that since she's a lot older than your average debut, even if she does well, I feel like she'll easily be overlooked because, they want the young, fresh faces. But I'm really rooting for her just based off her story alone, because I feel like if you have been working at this for that long and been through that many failures, most people would give up by now. So you can tell that she really wants this just by the sheer amount of years she's been putting towards this. Of course, then there's Somi. Somi was part of JYP's survival show 16, in which Twice was formed. She was actually very popular, but she ended up not making the cut, and a lot of people based that around the fact that she was very young, and there's actually a new labor law rules that I think people under the age of 16 aren't actually allowed to debut because they'll be so heavily restricted. As well, they can debut, but there's a lot of restrictions for minors, so you barely can do anything if you are underage and you debut. So a lot of people put that as the reason why she didn't make it. So she's kind of getting a second chance, which is cool because she actually does have a lot of fans. And I remember the day that the lineup of Twice was officially announced, she trended and people were saying it wasn't fair to her because she improved so much and she did so well. So I think it's nice for her to come out, even if I think she's gonna 100% make it because she's just eons more popular than the other girls. If you look at the online voting polls, she's just like in a league of her own in terms of voting and like views for her videos. So I definitely think even if because a lot of people have been noticing that Mnet, there's a potential that Mnet is going to edit Somi maliciously and kind of make her look like the bad guy, especially since she's from a top agency. She's the only girl from an agency that's from the big three. So, there's been a lot of, sketchy articles coming out and a lot of sketchy things coming out trying to clearly paint her as the villain, which I hope they don't do because, let's be honest, like, Somi is probably bringing the most attention to this show as the one with the biggest fan base. But overall, it's really cool. And she's also another one who kind of looks like she's really trying to put herself out there and debut, because there's actually another girl who almost made it into the group but got cut due to their age. And I feel like she probably was like, JYP, let me do this. So like, it's cool seeing her again, seeing how she's changed and improved. And then there's a couple girls who are kind of quote-unquote riding the fame of siblings. So Junsu from JYJ, his cousin's in it, and of course they had to mention that. And also Kim Soo-hyun's half-sister is in it, and she mentioned that as well. So that's very funny. Another girl who actually is in it is Danny, and she has like a similar fate as Chanmi in the sense that she was actually supposed to be put in Tiara, but that was during the time Tiara had their bullying scandal. So of course they're not going to put this young girl in this group that is like literally like has such a bad rep. So her like debut kind of like was thrown up in the air and she was kind of in limbo for a while. So she also, people like, that was another person where it was like, whatever happened to this person? So it's cool to see her come out and try to make it into this group. I'm really interested though what kind of like, when the group is finalized and they pick the people, which it was revealed that this thing is going to be based off viewer votes, so I can already kind of tell how this thing is going to go. But hopefully there's kind of like a bias towards the prettier girls and the girls from the bigger companies, and it's kind of like a positive feedback thing where the girls who are pretty and the girls who are from the bigger companies get more airtime and get more screen time, so people get to know them and like them more, which means they win more challenges and get voted for more, and hence they're just gonna keep getting more. So it's like, you can only get more popular if you're already popular. But hopefully, these girls work really hard and do what they can to stand out, and we can see some variety in terms of who's in the top spots. So I don't know, I'm just kind of rooting for all the girls. Still think that this is shady of their companies to do, but it's better than just like rotting away in these companies' dungeons, I guess. So let's get into the next song, Like a Fool by Twice. And we are back. For those of you just tuning in, I just played Like a Fool by Twice and Pride and Prejudice. Tell me what is more important by Zico. So for the last segment of the day, as always, it is Thursday. That means we are doing Thirsty Thursday, and I feel kind of bad because I've been kind of obsessed with this group, and I've already done somebody from this group, but they're really fine, so I have to do another member. So today's Thirsty Thursday pick is V from BTS. So BTS is a group that debuted under Big Hit Entertainment in 2013, and V is one of the main vocalists. Well, I wouldn't say main vocalists. Let's see, there's lead vocalists? I would say he's just a vocalist, because I would say the lead vocalists are Jungkook and Jimin. But one of the things I like about him the most is his vocal color. I'm actually very keen on vocal color. Some of my favorite K-pop singers is because they have such a distinct vocal color. For example, D.O. from EXO, he has a very R&B voice, and I really appreciate that. V also falls in the deep voice group, I guess you could say. He's very husky and it's very like developed. One of the first times I realized that I liked BTS was because I actually saw a clip of him singing from their show American Hustle Life that they did back in 2014, and in it he sang, he was working with a teacher, and he sang the song Oh Happy Day from Sister Acts 2, and his voice was just so good. Like when he sang it, it was so good and was so clear, and I was like, that's the one. But besides that, he is extremely handsome. I would call him the visual of BTS. I mean, a lot of people say it's Jin, but I feel like Jin is like the visual by name, but I see a lot of people, you know, be more impressed and surprised by V's visual. But he's very handsome. He's very classic handsome. And if any of his stylists are looking or listening to this, because I know you are, let's not do the bangs so much, because he looks very handsome when his hair is swept to the side and there's no bangs. Besides that, he's really popular because he has a really 4D personality. One of his shticks, or one of his nicknames when BTS first debuted was Alien, because he was always just really weird and saying out there things, but he seems like a really kind guy, and he's just like, I don't know, he's very cute. Y'all should look him up. What's cool about BTS is that they're really finding themselves in terms of music, but also in terms of style, and I feel like they're getting into that area where they're gonna start having hairstyles that fit them, and they're kind of finding what hairstyles are good for them. For the longest time, it was and I feel like for any newer boy group or girl group, you go through a lot of hairstyles before, you know, your stylist stumble upon something that really fits you well. For example, it was kind of out the gate, but Hyohyun from SNSD and Jessica from SNSD, they're signature blondes. It probably took a lot of like styling before they got to that, but he has like this light brown that he looks so good in, and you know, he's had the black, he's had like the orange, but it seems like they're sticking to the light brown, which is good. So if you want to check him out at his hottest, I would say either the I Need You video, probably the Run video as well, and there's actually, I'm gonna get weirdly specific, but there's actually they do a little segment for the V app. I think it actually ended, but you can still see old episodes, called BTS Run, and there's this one episode where they have to decipher certain things about certain songs. I forget what episode of Run it is, but they all looked real fine in that episode. But also they had a performance at this event in Japan called Summer Sonic. He was wearing a headband. He was looking so fine, y'all. So that's it for this episode. Before I hit you with the last song of the day, just want to tell you guys where you can find me. So this show, Daebak, airs every other Thursday. So while you guys are waiting for my next show, next Thursday, you can follow me on all the social media. I have a youtube.com/dailydose, where I talk about K-pop things, do rankings, do fun. You know, it's fun. It's fun, all right? It's fun. You can follow me on Instagram at RCUJ. That is at RCUJAY. I also have a Tumblr, radiocrabup.tumblr.com, and last but not least, you can follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/dailydosek-pop. So for the last song of the day, so here it is, guys, Us Now by Vix.